I think my partner just got removed. And we're debating, and he had the naming conventions down too. So um, I don't know who's in tab or something, but we could probably get that figured. All right, I think he managed to get back in.
Whoever.
All right, we are all ready to go. If everybody else is, I think we have all three judges. So. All right, so if everyone wants to put their email in the chat, I can start the email chain.
Good.
I sent the test email, so everyone just let me know when you get it and we can start.
I'm good. I got it.
Sorry, let me just make sure I got it. All right, I got it too.
All right. Has anybody not gotten it yet? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So, all right, we can start. Jack, can you just typing? All right. We affirm. Contention 1 is drones. Whitlock 14 explains that the U.S. military is relying on bases in the Persian Gulf to carry out airstrikes in Iraq. Additionally, Tursk 11 contextualizes the Al Udeid air base in Qatar is critical to the drone wars in Afghanistan and Pakistan. The U.S. has given up on attempts to be precise with drone strikes. Boyle 2013. The standards of proportionality have been eroded with drone warfare as the U.S. has engaged in attacks that kill more civilians than combatants. The deliberate targeting of civilian events are neither proportionate nor justifiable and would constitute war crimes. 2 impacts. The first is civilian deaths. Ryan 18 quantifies that the U.S. and allied strikes against the Islamic State killed as many as 6,000 civilians in 2017 alone. In fact, structural factors mean that deaths are much higher than figures say. As Boyle 13 explains, government officials assert without evidence that those killed were militants. The tallies of civilian deaths are thus much higher. Second is state collapse. Drone attacks systematically undermine governments and increase the probability of state failure. Boyle 13 writes that drone attacks weaken governments, undermine their legitimacy, and add to the ranks of their enemies. The popular perception is that a government is powerless to stop drone attacks on its territory will embolden its domestic rivals to challenge it through violence. State failure spills over and creates massive conflict. Fear in 15 explains that state collapse and failure raise the risk of civil wars and state failures in the region that are important for stability. Refugees strain neighboring states' economies and political balances. Regional conflict over failed states increases militarization, support for insurgents, and risks of regional interstate military conflicts. Contention 2 is Yemen. Hasbin 19 explains that benefiting from the U.S. security umbrella anchored by its bases around the Gulf, Saudi Arabia and the UAE have attempted to organize the region through military interventions. They launched, with U.S. support, an ineffective war against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. After America withdraws troops from the Gulf, Saudi Arabia no longer has the security umbrella that enables adventurism into Yemen. This will cause them to turn to a negotiated solution to the conflict as current conditions are ripe for an agreement. Hanley of March 2020 explains that the war has been costly both in financial terms and in the international reputation of Saudi Arabia. The Saudis would likely agree to having the Houthis share in power with the Saudi-supported Hadi government. This is true empirically. Parsi 2020 explains that recognizing that the U.S. military was no longer at their disposal, Saudi Arabia began exercising its diplomatic options. They stepped up direct talks with the Houthi rebels, and the level of violence declined as a result, resulting in an 80% reduction in Saudi-led airstrikes. A power-sharing agreement is critical. Wiesman 18 explains that the fighting in the blockade in particular has disrupted imports of food, fuel, and medical supplies, which is why Landry in 2019 concludes the UN has described Yemen as the world's worst humanitarian emergency with 10 million people on the brink of famine. Contention 3 is a U.S.-Iran war. Aggressive foreign policy has put America and Iran on a collision course. Coronavirus is making the war in the Middle East even more likely. Germanos from April explains that Donald Trump threatened to attack Iran and make the country pay a heavy price. With global pandemics and economic collapse, Trump wants to add a major war into the mix. KN 2020 continues that some in the administration seek to use the COVID-19 crisis to capitalize on Iran's increased vulnerability. Withdrawing troops from Iran's backyard reduces the probability of U.S.-Iran war for 2 reasons. First is provoking Iran. Continued military presence risks miscalculation and provocation of Iran. Abado in 2020 explains that U.S. fears of an imminent large-scale attack on its soldiers in Iraq is entirely valid. Iran seems ready to do whatever it takes to drive American troops out of the country immediately. The escalation by U.S. troops and the Iran-backed militias is putting Iraq at risk of an all-out military conflict. This trims down the possible scenarios for the U.S. future in Iraq to only two: all-out war or a departure sooner rather than later. Absent a U.S. threat of invasion, Iran will cease its escalatory actions. As Trevino in 2013 explains, while Iran has supported the Islamic Revolution, these actions do not create a network of offensive capabilities to become a hegemon. Instead, the focus of the new regime is survival, not expansion. Second is a shift to diplomacy. America's approach to Iran has become overwhelmingly informed by aggression. As Jones 11 confirms, the challenge has been treated almost entirely through the lens of militarism. Withdrawing troops sends a signal that the U.S. will shift to diplomacy. Hard 19 explained that peaceful coexistence requires the will to talk and compromise, and a U.S.-Iran war would be devastating. As Chusodowski in 2018 finds that a nuclear holocaust over the large part of the Middle East and Central Asia involving millions of civilian casualties will happen, and even if nuclear weapons are not used, bombing of nuclear facilities will release nuclear fallout, killing millions. Thus we affirm.
Can you send the
so
can you send the impact evidence?
and then can I also see war in Yemen was caused with U.S. support?
And sorry, the impact evidence on second contention.
Are y'all running prep or what's up?
I haven't gotten the card yet.
Aren't you allowed to
Alright.
while y'all are pulling up cards? Under TSC rules, I thought.
No, I think it's already been sent, hasn't it?
Oh, did you send it? I don't think I got it.
I haven't gotten it.
I sent it, yeah.
No, check spam maybe.
I just replied to the
Yeah,
thing.
it came through for me.
No, it's in my spam.
Oh yeah, it's in spam too. Sorry.
All right, so sorry, we'll start. Let me just get my timer and we'll start. All right, so starting now. Okay, that was 27 seconds.
Sorry. The order is case. Nueva negates our sole contention is moderating Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a deep-rooted mistrust in Iran that inhibits peace from spreading to the Persian Gulf. This fear is rooted in history. Marcus 19 of BBC warns that after the 79 Iranian revolution, Saudi Arabia perceived that Iran was exporting a revolutionary model of Islam that could inspire a revolution within Saudi Arabia, challenging the royal family's hold on power. When threatened, Saudi Arabia acts out on its insecurity, fighting deadly rebels and militias throughout the region in a series of proxy wars, drawing in outside actors like Iran from around the region. Withdrawing our military presence will reinforce Saudi uncertainty and cause proxy conflict in two ways. First, by magnifying internal uncertainty. Luck 18 of the CSM explains that the US's military support is the bedrock of the royal family security and stability. However, if domestic dissenters see the US security relationship disintegrating, the Saudis will grow skeptical of existing leadership, potentially challenging Prince Salman's hold to power. In response to the political failure of American withdrawal, the Saudis will have no choice but to act aggressively to seem strong in front of a domestic and regional audience. Lynch 16 of Carnegie Endowment explains that when domestic audiences question the regime's policies and policy failures, the Saudis seek to distract regional domestic audiences with aggressive foreign policy to enhance the perception of strength during a tumultuous time. This lash out will take the form of proxy conflict. Lynch continues that it is well documented that Saudi Arabia views the ethnic proxy conflicts around the region as a strategic battleground to build domestic support and often mobilizes sectarian tension to quell domestic uncertainty. Second, by magnifying external uncertainty. Hunsaker 16 of the University of London finds that forward deployed U.S. troops are one of the most effective ways to demonstrate security commitment because they intertwine American lives with allied interests, ensuring the U.S. will not retreat and abandon our allies. The loss of the security commitment would push our allies towards aggression, as Brands 18 of Bloomberg concludes that if the U.S. retreats from the Middle East, it would leave behind a more chaotic environment in which our allies feel forced to defend for themselves, lashing out to check back against external uncertainty. Tusi 18 of Princeton University furthers that today, because Saudi leaders feel they are the last Arab country standing in the way of total Iranian regional dominance, they believe any compromise is acquiescence by Iran's regional power. For these two reasons, U.S. military withdrawal has resulted in chaos in the Middle East. France 18 of Bloomberg adds empirically that at every point where the U.S. has begun the process of gradually drawing down its military presence in the region, Saudi Arabia has surged forward aggressively, backing proxy groups and starting conflict to protect themselves as U.S. security assurance fades. Leeds 03 of Rice University quantifies that having a security partner committed to a state's defense decreases the probability of conflict initiation by 28%. Overall, both links demonstrate military presence stabilizes Saudi security perceptions and prevents them from starting and interfering in proxy conflict. That's why Goldenberg 17 of Foreign Policy confirms historically that nearly every proxy war in the region, including Syria, Bahrain, and Yemen, were all started due to Saudi insecurity in response to a gradually diminishing U.S. military presence. These wars have been deadly, as the Red Cross in 2018 writes that due to proxy conflicts like Syria and Yemen, 50 million people are in need of aid and 19 million are displaced. Affirming now would collapse the region. Deep 18 at West Point finds that at the very least, the Gulf reaction to a U.S. withdrawal would be to fund Sunni proxy groups and fund like the fundamentalist militants in Syria and continue intervening in new conflicts like the unwieldy air campaign in Yemen. Supporting these militias is problematic, as Wood 12 of ASU finds that when third parties fund troops in proxy wars, casualties increase by 40% and the length of conflict increases by 2.5 times. Expansions of proxy conflicts are deadly, as Lovett 18 of the CFR finds there are 5 potential conflict flashpoints across the Persian Gulf where Saudi Arabia would look to expand and cause new conflicts, including Qatar, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. Any escalation would be problematic, as Fisher 16 at the New York Times quantifies that this regional escalation could kill up to 5 million through decades of proxy war and genocide.
Can I see a couple of cards? Actually, can I just see like the last card you read? I didn't catch the site. Then can I see the Leeds 03 evidence? Those are the 2 cards I need. Last one you read and Leeds.
Yeah, I got it.
Thanks.
Yeah, one sec. Set.
Okay. Wait, am I unmuted? No, okay, good. Hasn't come through for me, but I'll start prepping once it has. Okay, cool. I'll start taking prep now. Yeah. Okay, cool. 10 seconds used.
For cross.
Are you ready for cross or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wanna go?
yeah, sure. Okay, so you read me evidence in your second link that says that historically or like empirically, Saudi Arabia has increased support for proxies when they were like threatened with losing their security guarantee. So
Not
what
threatened.
or
It's
when
when the security guarantee decreased,
So-
Saudi Arabia lashed out.
got it. Yeah, I get your point.
Critical.
We're saying the same thing. So what specific proxy, like where did that happen? Like what specific
Yemen, Syria, Iraq. Every
Oh,
proxy war on the status quo has been caused by military drawbacks. That's Goldenberg and Brands.
Wait, hold on. Yemen?
Yes.
Then
Yemen was caused because they felt that the U.S. was pulling away military assurances.
then why did the last time the US
Your
threatened
evidence
to
that you
pull away-
read on your case about Yemen confirms this assertion.
No, the fact that the United States threatened
Saudi
to
Arabia,
pull
the
away
evidence you sent me on the email chain says Saudi Arabia went in first and then the U.S. followed them.
I don't know what I'm talking about the Parsi evidence that I read, right? The Parsi evidence that I read
I don't
is the last
care
time
about Parsi. I'm talking about every proxy war in the region has been started as a decrease of U.S. military security
Okay.
guarantees. Can I have a question?
Well, then I have a follow-up then, right?
Yeah, can we talk about your first contention about drones?
Wait,
You
I
told
just
me
wanna-
state collapse will happen. Where will state collapse happen?
Can I just clear this up first? 1 second.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah. Sorry.
then-
I thought
then-
you were done. So I apologize.
then why did the violence in Yemen decrease by 80% when the last time the United States threatened to withdraw?
So violence in Yemen did not decrease by 80%. There was a small blip in a decrease in airstrikes, and it only lasted for 2 weeks. In
Airstrikes is
March,
the source
Saudi
of
Arabia
all
started airstrikes again, which proves that all the diplomacy that you're talking about is probably short term. Let's talk about your first contention about drones. State collapse. Which state collapses in the Middle East?
Well, a good example are like pretty much like all the proxies that are going on right now, like where we're using drones.
But they're already failed states. What
Uh,
new states collapse?
failed states like because of drones. We would say like new states. First of all, states are likely to
Well,
collapse.
all the states in the status quo have collapsed already. So I'm asking, what new states are you worried about? Because
that's
if
not
we're
necessarily-
right, we decrease
Right.
the
Sure, okay,
chance
I'll
of
give you
any
two states.
conflict.
Pakistan, Afghanistan, Libya are all
Okay, so you're saying Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Libya are dependent on predator drone bases in the United States, not predator drone bases in Afghanistan.
yes. Our evidence specifically indicates
Because
that
your evidence is talking about predator drones carrying out strikes in Iraq. We have evidence saying that predator
The
drones are
second
based in
part-
Afghanistan, which
the
is
second
much closer to
part-
Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Second card says that the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar is where we launch all our drones to carry out drone strikes in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Can I ask a
No,
question?
okay, that's fine.
Yes, you can read the card. I can send it to you. It's
I know.
very explicit.
Okay, that's fine.
So let's talk about your like diversionary war thing, right? So why does in order to like get a domestic victory, why does he have to look outwards? Like why can't MBS do like more economic liberalization to appeal to their young population?
So it's not about the young population, it's about the Saudi royals. So there's like the Saudi royal family, which has like 800 princes in it. The argument is that without the
evidence
U.S.
is
security
not-
guarantee, MBS is no longer legitimized. That's
First
left.
of all, your evidence is not
That's
about
cross too.
the royal family. But second of all, my
That's
question
cross.
still stands. Like he can do other things.
I think I answered it. It's not about the
Time.
population, it's about the royal family.
Can I see the drone strike evidence real quickly? Sorry to interrupt. From the Al Hudaydah Air Base in Qatar.
Yeah.
That's where the drone strike.
Yeah. All right, I sent it.
Are y'all taking prep, or are you sending the evidence?
No, he's
cool.
sending the
I'll send
evidence.
them.
We're just waiting.
To go through.
Sorry.
Should be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're good. All right. Check.
Wait. Oh, did it go through?
Yeah, I went through.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, so it's just going to be Wang, then just like line by line the case. Probably flow the Wang on their case. Is everyone ready? All right. Our first contention of state collapse outweighs theirs in two ways we say drone strikes eventually cause these states to collapse. First, on a prerequisite, Boyd explains when states collapse, it causes spillover violence and the proliferation of violence in zones without governance means that proxy conflicts can flourish. Second, on reversibility, it takes more resources and political change to rebuild institutions of an entire collapsed state than it takes to negotiate a peace deal to a proxy conflict. Our second contention also outweighs on a risk of solvency. Lang 2020 describes the Yemen crisis as the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. On faces a low likelihood that any new conflict Saudi Arabia creates will be worse. You should focus on solving Yemen first. They just assert without any warrant or historical examples that the reason why Yemen happened is because the U.S. withdrew its troops, but that's the status quo, so that's a harm that they have to account for. Our third contention also outweighs for two reasons. First is on magnitude. Jezudowski 19 explains that U.S.-Iran war scenario would cause a nuclear holocaust over half the Middle East and kills millions more than any proxy wars would. That's our evidence from case. But then secondly, U.S.-Iran war also turns proxy wars, and with the U.S. involved, they expand outside the Middle East, meaning we also outweigh on scope, because War 2020 explains that ruthless proxies spreading chaos on multiple continents. The U.S.-Iran war has the potential to be one of the worst conflicts in history. Let's group both of their contentions with a few generalized responses. Firstly, the ceasefire in Yemen is failing now, even though preconditions for diplomacy are there. As Heeb says in our case, the Karen explains that the Houthis have violated the ceasefire 240 times. TRT of April 16th explains that Houthi noncompliance stems from Saudi refusal to make concessions and accept Houthi demands. That's why making Saudi Arabia willing to negotiate is key to solving the problem. Secondly, turn the argument against them. The Parsi empiric from our case about when Trump threatened to pull out proves that when Saudi Arabia is scared, they do diplomacy with regional actors like Iran and Israel, assuming America is out of the picture. They'll say that America started attacks again in March, but that was after we killed Soleimani, as Parsi says, and confirmed the Hawker security guarantee, and the conflict then resumes. But for this overall, there are other empirics because it postdates them by 2 years and assumes Trump's unpredictable foreign policy. Third, turn the argument. Failure to respond to Saudi condemnation causes emboldenment. Tasabi 18 explains that Trump stood by the crown prince even as U.S. military support came under attack. The administration emboldened people in Riyadh, giving it carte blanche to pursue more aggressive policies. Fourth, the Trump administration makes leverage fail. Burns 19 explains that Trump's wildcat-style diplomacy succeeded in undercutting the effectiveness of the State Department. Diplomatic efforts are undertaken by amateurs willing to give the president his way. But fifth, the U.S. can't control these allies. Shapiro in 2015 explains that GCC interests and U.S. interests increasingly diverge over issues. American officials convince themselves that they need to change U.S. policy more than Persian Gulf partners need to change theirs. But then let's specifically talk about each one of their links. On the first link about collapsing the legitimacy of the Saudi Arabian government. First, note they give zero warrant or contextualization why the legitimacy in the royal family depends on U.S. ties. Don't vote for an argument that misses a clear contextualized internal warrant. But then secondly, I would say that is not true at all. There's a lot of anti-U.S. sentiment in the Middle East generally, and that includes Saudi Arabia. I would be sure that many of these people would prefer a self-sufficient Saudi Arabia as to one that is propped up by America. So it isn't true that this loss of legitimacy just forces them to lash out 100%. But third, they forget that it is a monarchy. They don't have to lash out for anyone. They face no domestic pressure because they don't have elections, and clearly they don't care about international pressure because all sorts of sanctions, international condemnation didn't even affect how they operated in the Yemen conflict. So really, pressure doesn't at all get to anyone in the Saudi regime. On the second link about external uncertainty, again, the grouping answers both of these links, but let's answer a few of these specific claims that they make, beginning with the Tuesday 18 evidence about how basically Saudi Arabia views any diplomacy as acquiescence. Again, Parsi post states. Parsi is from like 2 or 3 weeks ago. What they say is that after these states thought the Saudis were going to pull out, the Saudi Arabians literally sit down and did diplomacy with Iran and Israel. That literally proves that Saudi Arabia does not rule out diplomacy in any case. They literally are 100% comfortable with conducting it. But then on the Leeds evidence, they say that we decrease allied violence. That evidence is not specific to the U.S. and is almost like 20 years old. Don't value this argument. But then they read evidence that says the gradually diminishing U.S. presence is the reason why these proxy wars were started. First, just an assertion. There is no warrant in the card for why this is true. But then secondly, again, that's the status quo. If our military presence is there and violence is getting worse, that proves we should take a different strategy based off of pulling out.
All right, we're gonna take preps. Sorry, now. right, that was exactly 2 minutes. Total. So the order is going to be starting.
2 minutes total, right? 2 minutes
Yeah,
total.
2 minutes total.
Yeah.
It's going to be starting with all the top level stuff on our case. We'll just frontlining our case, weighing on the top of their case, and then down. Is everyone ready? Cool. On the first piece of weighing, they say state collapse is more important. A, recognize Syria and Yemen are already state collapse, which proves that more proxy wars have a very high probability of leading to proxy conflicts. Second of all, they do not give you any specificity on this argument. They never say what states are going to collapse or how they're going to collapse. There's no actual warrant level analysis done on this argument. Evaluates proxy wars first because it's a much better empirical link of causing state failure. Then their second, the two warrants, one is a prerequisite, can lead to a proliferation of violence. No quantification of how much violence increases or where the violence increases. Then they say it takes more resources to negotiate. Proxy wars take the same amount of resources to negotiate. Then they say Yemen is worse. That doesn't matter. Johnson 18 finds that conflicts like Yemen are actually mostly already intractable. These conflicts are already locked in because the rebel groups on the ground are already locked into fighting. This means the only thing that matters is stopping future conflicts. Present conflicts are intractable. They say the status quo is just bad. That's not a binary. We tell you from our Brent's evidence, the U.S. is slowly moving down, and then that leads to Saudi Arabia always slowly moving forward. It's not just troops or no troops. It's a steady movement of downward troops, which we've empirically seen has led to more aggression. Then on their next piece of weighing, they say nuclear holocaust kills a bunch of people, and it's really bad. Recognize the CNA 18 finds will never be a nuclear holocaust in the Middle East because any actor knows that if they strike, it'll immediately have nuclear fallout in themselves because the states are so close to each other. But second, CNA also adds that even if Trump does a low-yield nuclear strike on Iran, at most it would kill 200,000, or 5 million impact still outweighs. They say the Houthis have violated ceasefires and overall looking to regional diplomacy. Two things here. One, we are actually ahead here because the ICG finds that Trump uses leverage to actually stop a full-on Saudi invasion of Yemen, which killed 24 million, which stopped the killing of 24 million people. It's much better than their vague negotiations because it clearly shows a material impact of the conflict. But second, on the Parsi thing specifically, remember, Parsi's negotiation he talks about happened 2 days before the perceived U.S. drawdown. Their timeline's all messed up. The negotiations happened before the U.S. pulled out, not after. Then they say that Trump is emboldened and Trump makes leverage fail. Once again, the empirics disprove. And they say Trump can't control his allies. Clearly, it's not just about how Trump acts, rather about the existence of presence pulls our allies back. It doesn't matter about Trump. Go to our second link. We're dropping all the defense in our first and just going there. They say Parsi proves to negotiate. Remember, A, it was just 2 weeks of negotiations, and B, the strikes resumed in March 30th, which obviously proves that there was no actual long-term peace, which means that our 2C evidence is also extended because it clearly tells you that Saudi Arabia never wants to negotiate in the long run. They say that our evidence is from the status quo. No, Brent says, and they completely mishandle this, is that every time the U.S. draws down, we empirically see Saudi Arabia surge forward. The historical precedent is really mishandled here. The status quo is not binary, it's nuanced. When the U.S. moves down, Saudi Arabia moves up. That's why we think you should not affirm to lock in more Saudi Arabia moving forward. They say our leads evidence is 20 years old, not specific to the U.S. They don't interact with the warrant. The warrant is that when one country backs another country with a security partnership, obviously applies to the U.S., the probability of conflict decreases by 28%, and they don't give a warrant as to why we can't evaluate it. The entire impact scenario is dropped. We tell you from deep Saudi will fund more Sunni proxy groups if the U.S. goes away, and that lead to 5 million deaths in 5 new proxy wars across the region. Untouched offense there. Let's go to their case. At the top, we're going to say proxy wars outweigh the interstate conflicts they talked about in 2 ways. One is on probability. The CSS 12 finds that 90% of conflicts in the past 15 years have been proxy conflicts, not interstate. But second, even if they win interstate conflict, what GOB finds is that proxy wars are 28% longer and have 2 times more civilian deaths. So on that, they're a lot worse than interstate wars. On their contention about drones, at the top link level, Trevithick 18 finds the single largest deployment of U.S. Predator drones is in Afghanistan. Our evidence is 7 years older theirs. Clearly, U.S. military policy has changed. We put more drones in Afghanistan. But second, Zenko 12 finds the majority of our drones are surveillance. On their first impact about civilians, Atlantic 13 finds our drones kill at a 1.5% rate, which is comparatively lower than other counterterrorism mechanisms. But on state failure, once again, proxies that are better Lincoln. But second, it should have been triggered already by decades of drone strikes. On their second contention about Yemen, caused by the ICG trend says leverage stopped 24 million people from dying. But second, they tell you that there's an 80% reduction. But no, remember, we tell you this 80% reduction happened in the context of U.S. military presence. We had presence there, so clearly they don't get offense on any of their Yemen advantage. Go to their third connection about the U.S.-Iran war. At the top, we specifically tell you Gobashi 19, the Washington Post finds that U.S. deterrence actually preventing Iran from ever escalating any of its militias to reach any direct confrontation. But second, they say expansion will lead the U.S. to pull away from the table. Rogan finds no, Iran will never compromise from a place of weakness, and there's sanctions in both worlds, so Iran will never compromise, which means there's no solvency.
Can we see a couple of cards? First, can we see that that Parsi got the timeline wrong, whatever evidence that is? Secondly, can we see leverage saved 24 million lives?
Also, the proxy conflicts killed 2 times more civilians.
Wait, actually, no. Morgan, check your text. I don't think we need that.
Oh, okay.
Wait, sorry. So you wanted the 24 million. Sorry, what was the other ones? I just forgot.
So it's just two, or actually, you know what? I actually would like to see. So the date on the first response you read to Iran, that's all I need from there. But then the actual two cards, the card that Parsi's negotiation timeline was wrong, and then the 24 million people, like whatever that was.
Do you want the year or the actual month on the first response?
Both. Yeah, both. Actually, could you just send that card in general?
Sorry, which card?
The first response to Iran, the one that was in time that deterrence is a thing, and they're not like escalating. Morgan, did you get the site on that card? I missed it.
The U.S. deterrence card?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get the site on it.
In the Zoom chat, can you just type them so we can send them?
Oh,
Cards you
just
want
type
in
what
order.
they are.
So yeah, so we
sure,
just like
sure,
look.
sure. Yeah, sure.
I just sent the ICG evidence and then the terminalizations at the bottom.
Okay. Hasn't come through for me yet. Oh, okay. Yeah, it just came through. We will start running prep now. Okay, pausing prep because it's only one card. Only one card has come through for me.
Yeah, same.
I just sent the dates on the Parsi evidence about the attack being 2 days before. It's just like 2 links with the different dates. And then we're getting.
Wait, it's just like.
Yeah. So the first
Sorry,
link says the negotiations happened on September 12th. It's the article is written on September 12th, and then the other evidence says the Saudi Aramco attacks that your Parsi evidence talks about were September 14th.
Wait, when you say links, do you mean like URLs or do you mean like is it cards?
I sent 2 URLs. But I just put.
Do you have the cards?
I mean, so what I'm trying to say is it's just the dates of the cards, like the negotiations. I can just cut it. It's fine if you want. I don't think it'll really be much.
I mean, yeah.
Jack, I don't think we really even need that.
Yeah, you don't need to like cut it, but yeah. We'll just look at that, I guess. Morgan, do we want to start running prep when that comes through?
Yeah.
Cool. Read my text, by the way, before we do that.
All right. Okay, it just came through for me.
Okay, cool. Wait, did you also send Iran deterred now?
Oh no, I Actually, that's not the
I'm
only-
sending it right now because I had
Okay.
to cut because you wanted it cut from.
Oh, Pranav, can you hit reply all and resend those 2 links because you only sent those to me.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I already cut the cards to the reply all for the. It's the same links. For the cards. So I just sent the 2 like date cards for Parsi.
Okay, so
Okay.
this is the answer to Parsi. Okay, and then the Iran being deterred is the last one.
I think Noah isn't like about to send it, or he sent it.
I already sent it.
What's the name on that one? Just to be sure.
Kobashi.
Kobashi. Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, they all just came through.
Sorry.
Morgan, do you want to call me? We'll run some prep.
Yeah, I'll call you. We'll start prep once the call goes through.
Good.
All right, you have about 15 seconds remaining.
Sorry, what did you say?
We have about 15 seconds remaining.
Okay, sounds good. You ready for the cross?
Um, So let's talk about this evidence from 2018 saying Yemen is an intractable conflict. If that is true, why have there been brief periods where there have been ceasefires in the past?
So there's two things that are important to recognize here. One, the brief nature of the thing you just said proves that even if they get a small solution, the rebels just continue fighting. That's what happened after the 80% reduction you talked about. It happened again in November. It happened again in March.
Yep,
and
I fully agree. And the reason I agree is because of the mishandled first response, which is that the reason the rebels keep fighting is because Saudis won't give them concessions because of the security guarantee.
No, so the reason why that doesn't make sense is because our Johnson evidence is independent of Saudi action, independent of Iran action. The groups on their own have their own incentives and like viewpoints in the conflict. They're just going to continue fighting. The only risk of solving
that is true of
also like,
dude,
like if
Pranav, that is true of Pranav. That is true of every war in human history. That doesn't mean it is intractable or can never be solved, right?
Wait, so the whole point, like we've been trying to solve the Syria and Yemen conflict for like 4 or 5 years now and nothing happens.
Yeah,
the only
that's the status quo. That's your world.
is the 5 new conflicts that would also be similarly intractable. Like if what you're talking
I understand your claim, but you've already said that. I'm saying
Well,
that the logic behind why we just say, oh, it's intractable, and we throw up our hands, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, I'm following up my claim with a further warrant, right? The argument is that these conflicts are multifaceted. The best way to move forward is most likely to stop these multifaceted conflicts from spreading throughout the region where they can wreak even more havoc. And now, can I have a question?
Yeah, every conflict is multifaceted. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's talk about your B warrant, your C3. So, in order, like, is U.S. military presence the only way the U.S. pressures Iran?
It's the only way that triggers direct conflict because there's actual military escalation between the two in Iraq happening now as of April. That's the conceded Abood evidence.
Why wouldn't the economic, you can just say that, but my question is, why would the economic harms of sanctions push Iran to get more aggressive to defend themselves?
So it doesn't matter because even if Iran gets more aggressive, we don't have troop presence in the region for them to attack and pull us into a war. So it doesn't link into the impact
scenario. Stuff around the region. We have like permanent bases in Afghanistan. We have boats in international waters.
Yeah, not in the parts near Iran. Also, again, you spend 5 seconds answering this link by saying, quote, we can deter Iran. No warrant, no empirics, no explanation. That is not sufficient to answer the argument.
I said the U.S. presence deters Iran from scaling its militias to attack because they're scared of Iran, of the U.S.
That's right. That is a claim. That is a claim.
So why does it deter them?
We need a warrant, but there was no warrant.
The warrant is that they don't want to escalate to confrontation with the U.S. It's simple.
Well, then that should have been in rebuttal because.
Okay, so why did Soleimani not escalate to nuclear war?
Again, post Soleimani, they're escalating literally right now. Again, Abood from last week says they have re-escalated.
So why did Soleimani specifically not escalate?
We're past time.
That's fine, yes. I'll take forever.
Morgan, do you need prep?
No.
Wait, actually, we got to take let's take a couple seconds of prep just so you can check this text. We'll start running prep now. Right, ending prep. 7 more seconds used.
Are y'all still taking prep?
No.
Oh, sorry. I meant to be talking to you guys. I didn't know I was muted. There's like a lot of weighing stuff at the top, which is why the order is gonna like be kind of weird. It's gonna start on my case, and it's basically gonna be like top down, pretty much, right? Like in terms of like front lines, and then when I get to your case, the best way to think of it is just like straight all the way down, like line by line, pretty much.
Right, sounds good.
Because like a lot of the weighing debate is happening on like 2 different places, if that makes sense. So
that's your case, my case.
But yeah, it's basically my case, your case, and then I'll signpost so you guys know what's going on. Okay. Is everyone ready? They get to our contention theory with 15 seconds left in our rebuttal. It is not enough to take this out. The only response that they have is that the U.S. is there always deterring Iran from attacking. 1 hour evidence is from 2020. It postdates them. The reason that's important is since that evidence was written, tensions between the U.S. and Iran have escalated to the point where Iran sees it as an existential threat. Next, their evidence says that the way that Iran will escalate instead is through proxy conflicts. Our impact scenario says that it starts with the proxy conflict in Iraq. The Abadan evidence is really clear. Let's extend the link. The link says that the United States' presence in Iraq is a existential threat to Iran, and they're going to do everything they can to expel the forces out of Iraq unless we withdraw right away. The evidence is really good. It presents literally a binary between U.S. withdrawal or war with Iran that starts in Iraq. The reason it starts as a proxy conflict is because Iran begins to start the war by funding proxy militias in Iraq, and then that escalates to U.S. war. The Chusadowski evidence is really good. It says that the United States will strike Iran's nuclear reactors, which releases a lot of nuclear energy, causes nuclear fallout, killing millions of people. Again, this is not nuclear war. This is striking the nuclear facilities. It's just like Chernobyl. Let's look at their weighing. So first of all, they say that 90% of conflicts are proxy conflicts. Well, this conflict is the other 10%. Also, they don't link into all proxy conflicts. Next, they say that proxy conflicts kill 2 times more civilian deaths. That's answered by the Ward evidence that Jack reads in a bottle. It says that a potential U.S.-Iran war will be the deadliest war that the region has literally ever seen, which makes sense because it's between the U.S. and Iran. They're 2 huge powers. Next, on Yemen, on the ICG turn, about 24 million people. First of all, that ceasefire ended very quickly, and since then, all other ceasefires have failed. Clearly, it's not preventing enough. Also, it's the blockade is still going on. So at that point, let's do some weighing. Let's extend the weighing. This is the weighing that Jack did on their case in rebuttal, by the way. First of all, answering their Johnson evidence that says that the proxy conflicts are literally always locked in, so you have to prevent future conflicts. 1, there's no warrant for why this is true, and 2, that's clearly not true so far as ceasefires are happening. Next, let's extend the weighing on our case. Why our case outweighs. 1, on magnitude, a direct conflict is much bigger than any sort of proxy conflict because A, the 2 countries fighting have much larger military capabilities, and B, it draws in allies. They respond by saying that there's no mutually assured destruction means no nuclear attack. We're not doing a nuclear scenario. Next, they totally dropped the prerequisite weighing that says that a direct conflict in the U.S.-Iran expands to proxy conflicts even outside the Middle East because Iran is trying to counter U.S. influence literally everywhere in the world. That means we link into stopping future conflicts, even if you believe that all other conflicts are locked in. That is clean dropped. It is a clean place to vote for us. Next, let's extend some responses on their case. First is the Parsi evidence. The Parsi proves that our side is empirically true. That the Parsi evidence says that when the U.S. threatened to withdraw its troops, that means Saudi Arabia turned to diplomacy in Yemen and airstrikes decreased by 80%. They say that the timeline is off. Literally, even if the stop in violence happened before the withdrawal, they did it because the U.S. threatened to withdraw. They knew that the U.S. was already going to do it. That's why that happened. Next, extend the totally drop turn in the first contention that says that everyone in the Saudi royal family is anti-U.S. and anti-imperialism, meaning if the U.S. withdraws, it's seen as a victory for the royal family, meaning they no longer need to pursue aggression in Yemen because they have a political victory. They don't need to be as aggressive. That's an independent warrant as to why they scale back and we solve the proxy conflict.
All right, we're gonna take a prep. We have a minute left, but we'll probably stop. All right.
One second. Before you want to take prep, if you can send me this evidence after you've taken prep, or you can send me it before. But I just need to see your brand's evidence. So when the U.S. moves out, Saudis push forward. So I need to see that, and then I also need to see the indicts to Parsi. I think they sent I don't know if you sent that already, but if you have, can you just point me to? Yeah, I'm on the email chain.
All right, so it's the email I sent for the Parsi indict. It's the one that starts in Reuters 19. That's
okay.
And I'll send the brand's evidence in a second once I go to my my email and find it.
Just to be clear, the indict's about the Reuters evidence and the Pamuk evidence because they give the dates on the attacks and negotiations.
Okay. And can you guys send me the Parsi? Can AF send me the Parsi evidence separately if they don't mind?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Morgan, go ahead, do that.
What? Yeah. No, you gotta go a little more later, I think. Why did you send ICG?
Yeah, you guys.
Did you ask for that earlier?
Yo, Pranav, you should mute yourself.
Oh yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just sent the Parsi evidence.
So I just sent the brand's evidence. Roger, if you want to go look at the email chain. So we're going to start our prep now. Okay, that was 43, starting from, yeah.
So I'm just gonna condense all the weighing onto like the top of our case. And then I'm gonna go my case, our case, simple. Let's start on the weighing, the intractability claim from Johnson first. They said there's no warrant for Johnson. The warrant for Johnson is in rebuttal and is well explained across. The argument is very simple. Proxy groups have their own individual motives for why they're in the conflict in the first place, which means top level diplomacy never worked. This is really important weighing because it means the absolvency mechanisms will never be implicated to reducing proxy conflicts because top level negotiations between like the US and Iran never function in de-escalating conflict. Proxies are the only thing that matters. But second, on the probability claims, their response to the GOB evidence, which is flowed on their case, but you should move here now, is that they create the deadliest war. But GOB is comparative, which is important because it tells you that proxy wars cause 2 times more civilian deaths than interstate wars. This is really key because even if they say their war is the deadliest war ever, that means that our wars are comparatively 2 times worse. The neg is always a comparatively better ballot. But second, they can see the CNA evidence tells you even if Trump does the strike and only kill 200,000 people, it means we outweigh on severity insofar as Fisher talked about 5 million people. Now let's go to my uniqueness scenario. There are a lot of problems here. They've completely conceded the Marcus 19 evidence, which tells you after the Iranian Revolution in 1979, Saudi Arabia views Iran as an existential threat. This means you have to vote neg. The entire lens of the round is through how Saudi Arabia will react to Iran and how it increases aggression in the affirmative world. They have also dropped the Goldenberg evidence, which tells you all the proxy wars in the status quo were started due to insecurity as a result of Saudi Iranian competition. When the US pulled away and did small drawdowns, that means the uniqueness only flows neg here. They make 2 responses. The first response is that so go back to the weighing. They make a short circuit response about a nuclear conflict going to the Middle East. We tell you specifically, they've said that Iran is a regional actor. We agree that Iran only cares about the region. Iran will not beyond the region. But second, the short circuit is never implicated to terminal impact. Okay, so back to the uniqueness. Now, under uniqueness, to their turnabout Parsi, there are 2 responses. They completely dropped the ICG evidence, which tells the US through Trump has empirically used leverage to stop a full-on invasion, which saved 24 million people. This is conceded offensively negative because it means we always outweigh all their Yemen negotiations and we outweigh their entire case. They never impact to this big of a terminal impact. It's 100% probability because it already happened. They read this Parsi evidence about a small decrease by 80%. 1, it's short term, but 2, they have conceded the index that tells you the reduction happened before negotiations happened, which are only due to US presidents. Now, go to my second link. They try to extend, they turn on the first link. It doesn't matter. We're going for it. We can win the second link. There's no contextualization of how they can implicate the first link. On the second link, they have conceded the Hunziker evidence that tells you US presidents uniquely signals skin in the game and brands continues. Any US retreat would create a chaotic environment. They have dropped the Leeds evidence, which does the comparative and tells you security partners decrease the probability of conflict by 28%. Again, the neg is ahead on the comparative analysis. They have dropped Deep and Levitt, which tells you Saudi Arabia would fund new proxy groups in 5 new escalation hotspots, which Fisher said would kill 5 million people. But what it goes a step further than saying an existing conflict, that new funding would increase violence by 40%, increase civilian deaths by 40%. We're ahead on the flow. Go to their case. On the third contention about US-Iran, they really mishandled Gobashi. Their entire scenario is dependent on malicious escalating, but Gobashi specifically isolates deterrence as the reason why preventing proxy escalation. They don't get access to any other escalation impacts terminal defense. That was 3 or 5, right?
So
I was confused how you're banging. I thought it went way over. Yes. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I had the last extension over time,
Oh, sorry.
but
You guys
whatever. We want to do
Okay.
grand?
Sure.
Jack. Oh wait, sorry, my bad. Nothing. I was just
Oh,
muted on the
oh,
line. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Doesn't matter. Can I have the first question?
Sure.
So why does your weighing about proxy conflicts matter insofar as Morgan tells you that the Iran-US scenario begins with proxy escalation and it spills over into
You're-
other regions?
I mean,
if we not
All that
use that?
matters. Wait, so you're saying that your link is proxies, but this is purely impact calculation.
No. We link in through proxies,
I agree. Your link is proxies,
and it's also an impact.
but your impact scenario is a U.S.-Iran confrontation. And so we're saying that the proxy war impact on our case, the impact level outweighs the impact level of the U.S.-Iran confrontation.
Wait.
But if we have an internal link that turns your argument,
Right. So you're making a short circuit
Of a
argument.
proxy conflict,
I agree. I
right?
made it confusing.
And the extra added impact of US-Iran.
Right. I think it was a problem structurally with my speech. I messed up. I read the weighing and then I forgot to go short circuits. I went weighing, uniqueness, and then I went back to the short circuit. I made that very clear. I gave you like 5 seconds of pen time at least. I can repeat the response if you missed it.
Into the short
no,
circuit.
I mean, if we all missed it, we all missed it. I mean, you can have a question.
Well,
We've been
I'm
on
sure
this
the
for a
judges
while.
didn't miss it because I was very clear.
It's on the flow.
Not clear enough for us to get it.
I said go back and answer
Okay.
Morgan's short
All right,
circuit.
all right,
So
all right.
In order
That's
for
fine,
you to
that's
win
fine.
your link,
Yeah.
in order for you to win your link, you have to win that Iraq will lash out, right? First.
That who lashes out?
No. We just have to win. What's happening in the status quo is literally causing a war. You drop a boot from April who says that there's current like direct military conflict like happening in Iraq between these militias, and it's basically sucking us into an inevitable
That's fine.
fantastic evidence.
Is incredibly good. I urge everyone in the round to call for it. It says
okay, they
that
just
there
send
is-
on the email chain if it's
it
so
says that
good.
there is specific. Okay, I will after this. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely good. It
Thank
says
you.
that it
When
says
does
that there is a
escalation happen?
direct binary, right? It's
When does
either the
escalation
U.S.
happen?
pulls out of Iraq now, or there is a full-fledged confrontation between the U.S. and Iran.
No, the thing is you're dodging the question, right? We can agree. There's
If it's happening in the status quo, when does escalation happen between U.S. and Iran via proxies?
First of all, we'd say it's pretty soon. Second of all, we'd say it doesn't really matter specifically when. Third, we'd say it's not really possible to nail down that timeline and you know it. And fourth, that's a brand new response in second classified or in grand
it's not a
classified.
response, it's a weighing question.
In Grand
Can I ask
Cross,
a question?
question about the timeline and everything, but yeah, you can have a question.
Okay, so far as we all agree on the evidence that says that it is a political victory for the Saudi royal family if the U.S. pulls out, right? And your link says that political victories for the Saudi royal family mean that they don't have to be aggressive in Yemen because they have the political victories from somewhere else. Why does that not turn the link into proxy conflicts? Because if they have their political victory from U.S. withdrawal, right, they don't need to get their political
Okay,
victory.
so
from
this
doing
is not
other
in summary though. It's my claim and what I
Yes,
say in
it
summary
is.
is that
Well, no,
you do
we
not make the
agree that.
extensions.
Yo,
Any
yo,
link
if-
extensions.
okay,
You just say we turn the link. There's
You
no
have two
implication of
links.
how much you turn the link. But second,
have
and way
two
more
links.
importantly,
What?
Hold on.
both links operate independently. We've done much more
Oh my
weighing
God.
on the second link about external uncertainty.
No. You have two links into one impact. If we
Also,
turn
I
one of the
think
links,
that's
we get
fine.
access to the impact. You can't just say that you're going for the second link and ignore it.
No, that's why
okay.
I frontline it.
Do people
think
want the
we're-
Abood evidence?
guys,
Do people want the
yeah,
Abood evidence? Yeah. Do people want the Abood evidence?
Yeah, just go ahead and send it. There's no harm in
All
sending
right,
it.
I'll send it to the
Meg, I still need to see brands and that when
Sorry.
US moves out, Saudi moves forward. So
I sent it already.
which one is it? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I just saw it. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Then I just sent the Abadel evidence too.
All right. When all that is finished, I'm ready to get my final focus if everyone's ready. Okay, take that as a yes. It's going to go our case, weighing debate. I think similar order as Noah did, then their case. Is everyone ready? They extend one response. In summary, two things. First, it is overtime. Don't evaluate it. Secondly, he extends through ink through Morgan's front line. He boot evidence is from April. It postdates. It indicates that Iran is escalating right now in Iraq. The evidence is literally fantastic. There are attacking forces right now, which is sucking us into an to an inevitable conflict. That's where our link comes in. We say that if we don't pull out of the region and get out of Iraq, we're stuck into this inevitable conflict, wherein the Chuskovsky evidence explains that America's war plan against Iraq is to strike nuclear reactors, which then causes a nuclear plume across half the Middle East, which wipes out the massive amounts of the population and kills millions and millions of people. On to the weighing debate. We outweigh in a few ways. First is strength of link. This link got conceded in summary. Their case flow is very messy. It's the cleanest place to vote. The next thing they say is that we don't give a warrant is on the conflicts being intractable for the turns on their case. Again, they don't give. They just said the reason the warrant for why the conflicts are intractable is because they have motives. That's not a real warrant. Everyone has motives. But then they try to outweigh and say there will be more civilian casualties. But their gains evidence is not comparative to a U.S.-Iran scenario, just any interstate conflict. They still drop our warrant evidence explaining the U.S.-Iran would be the worst interstate conflict in modern history. Then they say that a Trump strike would only kill 200,000. Again, ignoring Morgan's frontline. He ignores the Chuskovsky evidence explaining that the U.S. plan is to target Iran's nuclear reactors, which kills millions of people, half the Middle East. Then the last thing you extend is the proxy conflicts. The warrant evidence explains that if U.S.-Iran escalation happens, proxy conflicts proliferate across Middle East and across Africa. That outweighs their stuff on scope because you get more proxy conflicts, all the ones they talk about, plus ones in entirely different regions. But then they have two new responses, frame these through the idea that this argument was cold dropped in rebuttal. Don't evaluate these new responses. I read this way in rebuttal. The first response is that it wasn't implicated. Yes, it was. The evidence says you kill hundreds of thousands. The second thing they say is that Iran doesn't want to fund. Iran funds militias across the entire world. They're the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. On their case, the one thing we need to extend is the Parsi evidence. The empiric is when we threatened to withdraw, they did diplomacy. This proves you can respond to existential threats through diplomacy. The second section is that they concede a turn, which is that if you reduce U.S. presence, anti-U.S. sentiment goes away, and the need for Saudis to lash out goes away. That means that's an independent reason why you get less proxy wars in our world from Saudi Arabia than you do in theirs. This was a dropped turn on one of their links. Very bad for them to drop. So vote pro.
I have 12 seconds, right? Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, 13. So we're going to start now.
Yeah.
All right, so the order is going to be starting on the weighing, then going to our case, then their case. Is everyone ready? All right, so this round comes down to who we think is winning the weighing debate. We are so far ahead on the warrant level. They just say this is, quote, the worst interstate conflict. They do not interact with our GOB evidence. It says when you're comparing interstate to proxies, proxies are always A, 28% longer, and B, kill 2 times as many civilians. Even if they get a really bad interstate war, they've dropped clean warrants as to why proxies are always worse. But second, their terminal impact is severely mitigated. Our CNA evidence says the most likely Trump strike would kill 200,000 people, not the half civilian population they're talking about. They have dropped this evidence, which means we're already outweighing on scope. If we win our 5 million impacts in our case, they've dropped clean mitigation on their impact, which means we're winning the round on scope. We're A, ahead on severity, and B, ahead on scope. We're winning the weighing debate. Let's go to our case. Really easy, just place a sign your ballot is the untouched ICG turn that says U.S. leverage stopped an annexation of Saudi Arabia that would have killed 24 million people. 100% strength of link is conceded, and the impact outweighs our case. There's no terminalized extension in their case. But then they say that they can make Yemen worse. No, they don't interact with Johnson evidence really well. Johnson says the high-level negotiations will never trickle down to the small groups, which is why, quote, conflicts right now are intractable. The only thing you can solve is future conflicts. These 5 million people who are going to die in these new conflicts that Saudi Arabia would start. They read this link turn that basically says Saudi Arabia gets support from withdrawal. There's not nearly enough work done in this turn for you to even consider voting on it. They never say how much support they get, what the support transitions to in terms of proxy wars, or where they start this proxy wars. The turn is not well done at all. Don't vote on it. Go to our link, 100% conceded. Hunziker says U.S. presence signals skin in the game, and Brand says every time the U.S. draws down, Saudi Arabia moves forward. So Leeds finds having a security partner decreases conflict by 28%. Deep says Saudi Arabia funds proxy groups in 5 new conflict areas, killing 5 million people, the biggest impact. But on their case, remember, first of all, they dropped the CNA evidence that severely mitigates their impact. But second, the Gobashi evidence says the Iraq groups will never escalate past the brink. They never explain what has changed in the status quo about tensions. There's no warrant as to why their post-date matters. At the end of the round, They haven't won the fact that Iraq is not going to escalate no matter what. So there's never going to be a conflict and there's severe mitigation of impact. Please don't.
Good debate.
Good round.
Good round, guys.
Does anybody need to see any additional evidence? If they do, just like let me know.
Yeah, same with us.
I see from Nueva that the strike would only kill 2,000. And can I see from Blake that we would strike nuclear facilities, which would nuclear fallout would like kill millions? Or do I already have that?
Good question.
I think we already sent that impact evidence. I'll just send it again. Just for clarity, I'll just send it again. It was like the first card that was sent in the email chain.
Oh, okay.
I'll forward it. I'll forward it. Okay.
And if you want like a broader understanding of that impact evidence, you can click on the link, and it's basically like draws from like floor plans and stuff.
All right.
Wait, sorry, Mr. Schurtz, which was the card you wanted?
So I was wanting the card that said that the strike would only kill 2,000.
Oh, okay, the 200,000, yeah.
Oh, 200,000. Okay.
Oh, sorry. It turns out it's actually 100,000.
Okay.
We'll just send the card, it's fine.
All right.
I just sent it.
Okay.
Wait, Nueva. Jesus. Can you guys put in the sentence after the end of the sentence? 67% of respondents preferred a conventional attack, please, into that card.
There's a period there right now.
No, it's someone deleted half the sentence, and it's a pretty important half sentence.
Wait, I don't know the link. Is the link in the site?
I'll just
Yeah,
put
the
it back.
link's in the site.
Do we take it out?
Oh, that doesn't. Okay, and I'll send it, but it doesn't really change anything.
This is conventionals preferred, right? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the next sentence is really important in that card.
The next sentence.
Yeah. We can let the judges.
Or like the end of the sentence that you cut off.
Yeah,
I put it all
it's
back.
chill. It's chill.
Yeah, we didn't mean to take it out. It doesn't really change our.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I think I might have sent it twice. Sorry to spam.
Yeah.
Wait, Blake, did you all send your like impact evidence? I'm just curious to read it.
Yeah,
We did.
We sent it already. The Chusodowski stuff we sent it.
Okay, I think we're all in. We have all the judges. Judge one. Just say yes. Okay, we have all the judges. All right. Congratulations, everyone, for making it to the quarterfinals debate. The decision is a 2-1 for the pro. I don't know if there's a particular order. Raj, would you like to start, or I can go?
Whatever would you like to start?
I can just go.
Yeah.
I voted for the pro. I think the pro wins the Iran scenario. The con is not responsive to the US withdrawal makes the Kingdom Royals look good argument. The pro is able to weigh the US-Iran war and future proxy wars. I have doubt about the con's ability to access their proxy war scenario, given the lack of specificity of that scenario and the limited response on the aforementioned link argument. Overall, though, for all the debaters, I think you all should rely less on judges reading your or your opponent's evidence. I think you should just say what it says and tell the judge what to do with it. And I think that'll save you a lot of time and help you better control the judge's interpretation of all the arguments in the debate. Yeah, I felt like there was a lot that kind of was left for my interpretation and digging in the evidence. So prefer that less in the future. But this was a good debate, both sides.
So I agree with that analysis. So I voted for pro as well. So I thought that at the end of the round, for me, whether Saudi Arabia is going to become more aggressive or less aggressive if the U.S. withdraws, seemed to me to be a wash. And as far as the Yemen, in terms of saving 24 million people through U.S. leverage, I thought Blake had answered that well by saying that the ceasefire ended quickly. U.S. leverage wasn't really successful there. And I felt that Khan had really undercovered the pro third contention on Iran, so that I believe there's at least some probability that Blake wins their scenario, that U.S. withdrawal is key to making it less likely that US and Iran get drawn into a war. And I think that there is at least some probability that this war could lead to an attack on an Iran nuclear facility that would have the potential to kill millions through the fallout. As to the proxy war analysis, so Khan was saying proxy wars kill 2 times more than interstate conflict, but I thought that Blake had answered that well by saying, first, that's just generic evidence that's not specific to answering the Iran-US risk of war. And second, Blake was from the very beginning explaining how a US-Iran conflict would dramatically increase proxy wars globally anyway. So therefore, the argument that the proxy war would outweigh it doesn't make any sense to me. And the Khan's evidence in terms of that we wouldn't do a nuclear strike that against Iran, that we would do a conventional strike. So of course, the 2 problems with that is that that doesn't actually say that we wouldn't do a conventional strike against a Iranian nuclear facility, which is what Blake's scenario was in the first place. And second is that the Khan evidence actually supported Blake's position by saying that there was a decent probability that the US would conduct a nuclear strike. So that's where I came down. Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'm last. So I'll just start by kind of breaking the debate down into like frontiers of clash, I guess. So overall, I thought it was an excellent debate with a lot of nuance and fascinating arguments. I was really impressed with both teams' ability to kind of take really complex information, synthesize it, and then present it in a new light. But ultimately, I ended up voting neg. The first reason was the weighing analysis on proxy wars versus interstate conflict. So neg clearly demonstrated to me that even if interstate war breaks out, proxy wars are not only more probable to break out because of geopolitical fault lines in the Middle East right now, but that they would kill millions more. And this is backed up like through years and years of historical precedent. And it's also backed up by like where the trend lines are shifting right now. And they presented that very clearly in round. Proxy wars took the same effort to resolve. That was neg response. They last way longer. And the Brands evidence they showed me demonstrates that alongside historical precedent, when the USA pulls out, the Saudis get more aggressive. I didn't feel like AF was very responsive to this argument throughout the round. I did evaluate the Parsi evidence, but the problem was like what I like. Again, I think the one of the first judge commented on this. She said that you know, when you're forcing us to kind of evaluate the evidence, it becomes very hard instead of telling me like what it means and how I should weigh it and why. So I had to do a lot of my own direct reading to see it. So the problem with the Parsi evidence was that airstrikes were down when the US was still active in the region. Also, each ceasefire timeline was too short, which is what Meg articulated. Each ceasefire collapsed. And the Johnson evidence plus the warrant showed me that trickle-down diplomacy just doesn't work with rebel groups like the Houthis. So I don't trust them as an actor. And you didn't tell me as an AF why I should trust them as an actor to create solvency for the Yemeni civil war. So I had to drop your solvency on Yemen. Moreover, the ICG turn was untouched and extended cleanly through ink, alongside the Leeds evidence, which was a powerful historical tool as well. AF's frontline to Neg's response regarding the fact that like, okay, mutually assured destruction exists in the Middle East anyway, so nuclear war won't break out, was insufficient in maintaining your link into the impacts of nuclear war. So AF was correct regarding your April 2020 evidence concerning escalation in the status quo right now. But what Ned said was very, very, very apt, which was that you don't tell me why this flare-up right now is different from previous flare-ups, and you don't respond to the merits of existing US deterrence and the status quo against Iranian proxies that is happening right now. Even though it was a last-minute response and rebuttal, and it was extended again in summary, so I counted it. So the Abood card that you guys had was a really good piece of evidence, but it didn't provide me with any timeline or clarity, as Neg pointed out. And the proxy war analysis versus interstate war weighing was very clear, alongside the fact that it's most certain that if the US pulls out, proxy wars are simply going to escalate. I had to drop your offense on drones because failed states were not specified. most drone strikes are occurring in Pakistan. You guys cited Libya, but you didn't show me the causality of drone strikes concerning Libya's status as a failed state. And you didn't tell me where states are failing now because of drone strikes. I know you dropped that piece of offense, but I'm just telling you like my reasoning for why I couldn't weigh it. And then Neg's weighing on, again, on the near certain likelihood of proxy wars if the US pulls out was enough to outweigh any potential harm of drone strikes. But overall, I thought the debate was excellent and all of you did a great job. So really well done.
I just have one really quick question. I don't know if the other judges here, just like curious where y'all fell on the like thing that Raj talked about at the end, like the defense on the Iran, like the post-date versus our older evidence on like why there won't be an escalation.
I mean, I don't have a specific comment on it. I just thought that overall, I felt that there was enough probability of Blake winning their overall scenario.
All right, thank you all so much for judging and good luck, Jack and Morgan.
Good round, Joe. Thank you all for judging.